Going live, and I'm live. Okay. Wait for it to pop up. The stuff. Okay, there it goes. So, hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today is day 58, I believe, of the plan. So, yeah, it's day 58. I read Judges 13 through 16 yesterday. I'll be reading 17 through 20s today. And so, yeah, there's not much else I can really know what to do. So, yeah, I'll just be reading Judges 17 through 20. So, let's get started. Micah's priest. There was a man from the hill country of the Ephraim named Micah. He said to his mother, "Take 1,100 pieces of silver taken from me, and that I heard you place a curse on. Here's the silver, I took it." Then his mother said, "My son, may you be blessed by the Lord." Then he returned the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother, and his mother said, "I personally consecrate the silver to the Lord for my son's benefit to make a carved image and a silver idol. I'll give it back to you." So he returned the silver to his mother. She took 5 pounds of silver and gave it to a silversmith. He made it into a carved image and a silver idol, and it went in Micah's house. This man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and household idols, and installed one of his sons to be his priest. In those days there was no king of Israel. Everyone did whatever seemed right to him. There was a young man, a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, who was staying with the clan of Judah. The man left his town of Bethlehem in Judah to stay wherever he could find a place. On his way, he came to Micah's home in the hill country of Ephraim. "Where do you come from?" Micah asked him. He answered, "I'm a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah. I'm going to stay wherever I can find a place." Micah replied, "Stay with me and be my father and priest, and I'll give you 4 ounces of silver a year, along with your clothing provisions." So the Levite went and agreed to stay with the man, and the young man became like one of his sons. Micah consecrated the Levite, and the young man became his priest and lived in Micah's house. Then Micah said, "I know that the Lord will be good to me, because the Levite has become my priest." Chapter 18. Dan's invasion and idolatry. In those days there was no king of Israel. The Danite tribe was looking for territory to occupy. Up to that time, no territory had been captured by them among the tribes of Israel. So Danite set out 5 brave men from all their clans, from Zorah and Eshtaol, to scout out the land and explore it. They told them, "Go and explore the land." They came to the hill country of Ephraim, as far as the home of Milcah, and spent the night there. While they were near Milcah's home, they recognized the accent of a young Levite, so they went over to him and asked, "Who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? What is keeping you here?" He told them, "This is what Micah has done for me. He has hired me, and I became his priest." Then they said to him, "Please inquire of God for us to determine if we will have a successful journey." The priest told them, "Go in peace. The Lord is watching over the journey you're going on." 5 men left and came to Laish, Laish. They saw the people who were in there living securely, in the same way the city was quiet and unsuspecting. There's nothing lacking in the land, no oppression or ruler. They are far from the Syrians, having no alliance with anyone. When the men went back to their relatives of Zorah and Eshtaol, their relatives asked them, "What did you find out?" They answered, "Come on, let's attack them, for we've seen the land, and it's very good. Why wait? Don't hesitate to go and invade and take possession of the land. When you get there, you'll come to an unexpected people and spacious land, for God has handed it over to you. It's a place where nothing on earth is lacking." 600 Danites departed from Zorah and Eshtaol, armed with weapons of war. They went up and camped at Kiriath Jearim in Judah. This is where the place at the camp of Dan today is, west of Kiriath Jearim. From there they traveled to the hill country of Ephraim and arrived at Milcah's house. 5 men who had gone to scout out the land of Laish told their brothers, "Do you know that there are an ephod, household gods, and carved images and a silver idol in these houses? Now think about what you should do." So they detoured there and went to the house of the young Levite at the home of Micah and greeted him. 600 Danite men were standing by the entrance of the city gate, armed with their weapons of war. Then 500 men had gone out to scout the land, and they took the carved image, the ephod, and the household idols, and a silver idol, while the priest was standing by the entrance of the city gate with 600 men armed with weapons of war. When they entered Micah's house and took the carved images, the ephod, and the household idols, and the silver idol, priest said to them, "What are they doing?" They told him, "Be quiet, keep your mouth shut. Come with us and be a father to us and priest us. It's better for you to be a priest for the house of one person or for the priest of a tribe and a family of Israel." So the priest was pleased and took his ephod, household idols, and carved image and went with the people. They prepared to leave, putting on their dependents, livestock, and possessions in front of them. After they were some distance from Micah's house, the men who were in the houses near it were mustered and caught up with the Danites. They called to the Danites, who turned to face them and said to Micah, What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you that you mustered the men?" He said, "You took the gods I had made and the priests and went away. What have I have left? How can you say to me, what is the matter with you?" And the Danites said to him, "Don't raise your voice against us, or angry men will attack you, and you and your family will lose your lives." The Danites went on their way, and Micah turned to go back to home because he saw they were stronger than he was. After they had taken the gods Micah had made and the priests had belonged to him, they went to Laish. And the people went to Laish, to a quiet and unsuspecting people. They killed them with their swords and burned the city. There was no one to rescue them because it was far from the city and they had no alliance with anyone. It was a valley that belonged to Beth Rehob. They rebuilt the city and lived in it. They named the city Dan after the name of their ancestor Dan, who was born to Israel. The city was formerly named Laish. The Danites set up the carved image for themselves. Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Moses, and his sons were the priests of the Danite tribe until the exile. Then carved image from them, Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Moses, sons, priests of the Danite tribe until the time of exile from the land. So they set up themselves Micah's carved images that he had made, and it was there as long as the house of God was in Shiloh. Outrage in Benjamin. Chapter 19. In those days there was no king in Israel. A Levite staying in a remote part of the hill country of Ephraim acquired a woman from Bethlehem and Judah as his concubine, but she was unfaithful to him and left him for her father's house in Bethlehem in Judah. She was there for 4 months. Then her husband got up and followed her to speak kindly to her and bring her back. He had a servant with him and a pair of donkeys. So she brought him to her father's house, and when the girl's father saw him, he gladly welcomed him. His father-in-law, the girl's father, detained him, and he stayed with them for 3 days. They ate, drank, and spent the night there. On the 4th day, they got up early in the morning and were ready to go. But the girl's father said to his son-in-law, "Have something to eat to keep your strength, then you can go." So I sat down, 2 of them ate and drank together. The girl's father said to the man, "Please agree to stay overnight and enjoy yourself." The man got up to go, but his father-in-law persuaded him, so he stayed and spent the night there again. He got up early in the morning of the 5th day to leave. The girl's father said to him, "Please keep up your strength." So he waited until late afternoon and 2 of them ate. The man got up to go with his concubine and servant. When the father-in-law, the girl said to him, "Look, night is coming. Please spend the night. See, the day's almost over. Spend the night here. Enjoy yourself. Then you can go up early in the morning for your journey and go home." But the man was unwilling to spend the night. He got up and departed and arrived at opposite Jebus, that is Jerusalem. The man had almost 2 saddled donkeys and the concubine with them, and they're near Jebus. When the day was almost gone, the servant said to his master, "Please, why not let us stop at the Jebusite city and spend the night there?" The master replied to him, "We will not stop at foreign city where there are no Israelites. Let's keep on moving to Gibeah. Come on," he said. "Let's try to reach one of these places and spend the night at Gibeah or Ramah." So they continued on their journey, and the sun set near Gibeah in Benjamin. They stopped to go and spend the night in Gibeah. The Levite went and sat down in the city square, but no one took them into their home to spend the night. In the evening, an old man came in from his work in the field. He was from the hill country of Ephraim, but he was residing in Gibeah, where the people were Benjamites. And he looked up and saw a traveler from the city square. The old man asked, "Where are you going? Where do you come from?" He answered, "We're traveling to Bethlehem in Judah from the remote hill country of Ephraim." Where am I from? I went to Bethlehem in Judah, and now I'm going to the house of the Lord. No one is taking me into his home. All there is straw and feed for the donkeys. I have bread and wine for me, my concubine, and servant with us. There is nothing we lack. "Welcome," said the old man. "I'll take care of everything you need. Only don't spend the night in the square." So he brought them to the house and fed the donkeys. Then they washed their feet and ate and drank. And then, enjoying themselves, saw some wicked men in the city surrounded the house and beat on the door. said to the old man, who was the owner of the house, "Bring the man who came to your house looking at sex." The owner of the house went and said to all of them, "Please don't do this evil, my brothers. After all, this man has come into my house. Don't commit this horrible outrage. Here, let me bring on my virgin daughter and the man concubine now. Abuse them and do whatever you want to them, but don't commit this outrageous thing against this man." But all the men would not listen to him, so the man seized his concubine and took her outside to them. They raped her and abused her all on until morning. At daybreak, they let her go. Early in the morning, the woman made her way back. As it was getting light, she collapsed at the doorway at the man's house where her master was. Her master got up in the morning, opened the doors to her house, and went to leave his journey. There was a woman whose concubine collapsed near the doorway of the house, with her hands on her threshold. "Get up," he told her, "let's go." There was no response, so the man pulled her on a donkey and set her out for home. When he entered his house, he picked up a knife, took hold of his concubine, cut her into 12 pieces, limb by limb, and then sent her throughout the territory of Israel. Everyone who saw it said, "Nothing like this has ever happened or has been seen since the day of the Israelites came out of the land of Egypt until now." Think over it, discuss it, and speak of it. That was pretty weird. Chapter 20. War against Benjamin. All the Israelites from Dan to Beersheba and from the land of Gilead came out. The community assembled at the body before the Lord at Mizpah. The leaders of all the people and of all the tribes of Israel presented themselves in the assembly of God's people, 400,000 armed foot soldiers. The Benjamites heard the Israelites had gone up to Mizpah. The Israelites asked, "Tell us, how did this evil act happen?" The Levite, the husband of the murdered woman, answered, "I went to Gibeah in Benjamin with my concubine to spend the night. Citizens of Gibeah came to attack me and surround the house at night. They intended to kill me, but they raped my concubine and she died. Now I took my concubine, cut her in pieces, and sent her throughout Israel's territory, because they had committed a wicked outrage in Israel. Look, all of you are Israelites. Give your judgment and verdict, right here and now." Then all the people stood and united and said, "None of us will go to his tent or return to his house. Now this is what we'll do to Gibeah. We'll attack it by lot. Then we'll take 10 men out of every 100 from all tribes of Israel, and 100 out of every 1,000, 1,000 of every 10,000. Get provisions for the troops, and then they'll all go to Gibeah and Benjamin to punish them for all the outrage they committed in Israel." So all the men of Israel gathered and united against the city. Then the tribes of Israel sent the men throughout the tribe of Benjamin, saying, "What is this evil act you have happened among you? Hand us over the wicked men and give us, so we can put them to death and eradicate evil from Israel." But the Benjamites would not listen to their fellow Israelites. Instead, Benjamites gathered together from their cities to Gibeah to go out and fight against Israel. On that day, the Benjamites mobilized 26,000 armed men from the cities. Besides, 700 fit young men railed by the inhabitants of Gibeah. There were 700 fit young men who were all less-handed armored among these troops, who could not sling a stone at a hair and not miss. The Israelites, apart from Benjamin, mobilized 400,000 armed men, everyone an experienced warrior. They set out, went to Bethel, and inquired of God. The Israelites asked, "Who is to go first to fight against the Benjamites?" And the Lord answered, "Judah will be first." In the morning, the Israelites will set out and camp near Gibeah. The men of Israel went to fight against the Benjamin and take their battle positions against Gibeah. The Benjamites came out of Gibeah and slaughtered the 22,000 men of Israel on the field that day. The Israelite troops rallied again and took their battle positions in the same place where they positioned themselves on the first day. They went up, went before the Lord until evening, and inquired of him, "Shall we again attack our brothers, the Benjamites?" And the Lord answered, "Fight against them." On the second day, the Israelites advanced against the Benjamites. That same day, the Benjamites came out from Gibeah to meet them and slaughtered an additional 18,000 Israelites on the field. All were armed. The whole Israelite army went to Bethel where they wept and sat before the Lord. They fasted that day until evening and offered burnt offerings and fellowship offerings to the Lord. Then the Israelites inquired to the Lord. In those days, the Ark of the Covenant of God was there, and Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, was serving before it. The Israelites asked, "Should we again fight our brothers the Benjamites, or should we stop?" The Lord answered, "Fight, because I'll hand them over to you tomorrow." So Israel set up an ambush around Gibeah. On the third day, the Israelites fought against the Benjamites and took their battle positions against Gibeah as before. The Benjamites came out against the troops in order to run away from the city. They began to attack the troops as before, killing about 30,000 men of Israel on the highways, one of which goes to Bethel and the other to Gibeah, through the open country. The Benjamites said, "We are defeating them as before." But the Israelites said, "Let's flee and draw them away from the city to the highways." So all the men of Israel got up from their places, took the battle positions at Baal Tamar, where the Israelites in ambush charged out the places west of Gibeah. Then 10,000 fit young men from all of Israel made a frontal assault against Gibeah, and the battle was fierce, but the Benjamites did not know that disaster was about to strike them. The Lord defeated Benjamin in the presence of Israel. On that day, the Israelites slaughtered 25,100 men of Benjamin. All were armed. Then the Benjamites realized they had been defeated. The men of Israel had retreated before Benjamin, because they were confident in the ambush they had set against Gibeah. The men in ambush had rushed quickly against Gibeah. They had advanced in the whole city to the sword. The men of Israel had prearranged signal with the men in ambush, and they set up a great cloud of smoke from the city. The men of Israel would return to battle, and the Benjamin had begun to strike them down, killing about 30 men of Israel. They said, "We are defeated before us, just as they were in the first battle." When the cloud of smoke began to go up from the city, Benjamin looked behind them. The whole city was up in smoke. The men of Israel returned, and the men of Benjamin were terrified. They realized disaster had struck them. They retreated before the men of Israel towards the wilderness. The battle overtook them, and those who came out of the city slaughtered those between them. They surrounded the Benjamites, pursued them, and easily overtook them near Gibeah towards the east. There was 18,000 men who died from Benjamin, and all were warriors. Then Benjamin turned and fled towards the wilderness to Rimmon Rock, and Israel killed 5,000 men on the highways. They overtook them at Gideon and struck 2,000 more dead. All the Benjamites who died that day were 25,000 armed men. All were warriors, but 600 men escaped into the wilderness of Rimmon Rock and stayed there 4 months. The men of Israel turned back against the other Benjamites and killed them with their swords, the entire city, the animals, and everything that remained. They also burned cities that remained. So, there's one more chapter until I'm done with Judges, so I might as well just go ahead and read that too real quick. Brides for Benjamin. Chapter 21. The men of Israel had sworn an oath to Mizpah. None of us will give a daughter to Benjamin in marriage. So the people went to Bethel and sat there before the Lord until evening. Then they wept loudly and bitterly and cried out, "Why, Lord God of Israel, has it occurred that only tribes missing Israel today?" The next day the people got up early, built an altar there, and offered burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. The Israelites asked, "Who of all the tribes of Israel didn't come to the Lord with this assembly? For a great oath has been taken that anyone who had not come to the Lord at Mizpah would certainly be put to death." But the Israelites had compassion on their brothers, the Benjamites, and said, "Today our tribe has been cut off from Israel. What shall we do about the wives for the survivors? We have sworn to the Lord not to give them to any of our daughters as wives." They asked which city among the tribes of Israel didn't come to the Lord at Mizpah. It turned out that no one from Jabesh Gilead had come to the camp in the assembly. For when the roll was called, no men were there inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead. The congregation sent 12,000 brave warriors, and there commanded them, "Go kill the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead with sword, including women and dependents. This is what you should do. Completely destroy every male as well as every woman who has gone to bed with a man." They found among the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead 400 young virgins who had not gone to bed with a man, and they brought them to a camp at Shiloh in Canaan. The whole congregation sent a message to the beasts of Benjamin who were at Rimmon Rock. Benjamin returned at that time, and Israel gave them the woman that had kept alive from Jabesh Gilead, but there were not enough for them. The people had compassion on the Benjamin because the Lord had made this gap in the tribes of Israel. The elders of the congregation said, "What should we do about our wives for those who are left, since the woman of Benjamin has been destroyed?" They said, "There must be heirs for the survivor of Benjamin, so that the tribe of Israel will not be wiped out. But we can't give them our daughters as wives." For the Israelites had sworn, "Anyone who gives a wife to Benjamin is cursed." They also said, "Look, there's an annual festival to the Lord at Shiloh, which is north of Bethel, east of the highway that goes up from Bethel to Shechem, and south of Abana." Then they commanded the Benjamites, "Go and hide in the vineyards. Watch, and when you see the young woman at Shiloh come out to perform the dances, each of you leave the vineyards and catch wife for yourself from the young woman at Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin. When your fathers or brothers come to us and protest, we will not tell them, show your favoritism, since we did not get enough wives for each of them in battle. You didn't actually give the woman to them, so you are not guilty of breaking your oath." The Benjamites did this and took the number of women needed from the dancers they caught. They went back to their own inheritance, rebuilt their cities, and lived in them. At that time, each Israelite returned from their own tribe and family. Each returned from his own inheritance. In those days, there was no king of Israel. Everyone did what seemed right to him. So, that is all the reading for today. Tomorrow, I'll be reading from Ruth, and I'll be finishing Ruth, because Ruth is 4 chapters. But, anyways, it starts out in chapter 17, talking about Micah to begin with, and how he, somehow got a lot of silver, and so then his mom made, a bunch of idols and stuff, carved images out of it, and so a priest came, a Levite became the priest at his house, basically. And so, yeah, and then it talks about how Dan invaded it and took these idols for themselves and took the priest for himself. And then Benjamin, created outrage because there was one man traveling with the servant and other person. And so he settled down for a little bit, and Benjamin to go to sleep. And these people came and tapped the door. And so he wanted to kill him, but instead they took the woman that was with him and they raped her, and so she died. And so it was an outrage against Israel, so that they went in battle against Benjamin and they destroyed them, basically. So then it talks about all the brides and Benjamin and all that from the woman that got left over from that one place. Forgot the name. So yeah, that is all the reading for today. Hope you've had a good day so far. Great rest of your day. Remember, God loves you, and goodbye.